Athletic Director John Cohen has been busy interviewing candidates for Auburn's head coaching job, but is there a leader in the clubhouse? Special weeknights, Friday night, the midweek report coming at you guys live from wherever you're at, brought to you by the Rage Room. You can find them in Opelika at 1510 2nd Avenue or in the Birmingham area at 2616 7th Ave South. They got axe throwing. You can break windshields. You can bust up a baby car seat with a bat. It's a good time at the Rage Room. If you are raging right now about Auburn sports, well, the Rage Room can help you get some of that rage out constructively and without landing up in jail. Again, find them at 1510 2nd Avenue, Opelika, 2616 7th Ave South in Birmingham. We appreciate them for sponsoring this special segment of the War Report. Sign up as a member, guys. We got 2 games left, and you want to be a part of the War Report. Caesar is going to be live with you guys on these interwebs, enjoying the game. We had a great watch party, Caesar, during the Vanderbilt game.
Yes, we did.
You were crashing out. You guys crashed out with us, and Auburn crashed out in overtime. But hey, look, we did it all together. We crashed
irrelevant.
out.
Irrelevant. That was irrelevant.
We want to have more. There are more good times ahead, maybe even with Auburn basketball. So sign up as a member so you can be part of that community. Lots of film reviews tucked behind that paywall as well, too. So you don't want to miss out. You can also give the gift of the War Report by hitting that gifted membership button. Let's see if we can get 50 given away tonight. Check out our written work at thewarreport.com and our merch store. Boog hard once Auburn hires a coach by getting your Boog merch today. Thewarreport.com, serving up lots of great stuff for you guys. Check us out on podcasts, all the podcast networks. We are there, the Auburn Express, Up-Tempo, College Loop, Just a Sec, and even the War Report Gaming channel. We are burning up the podcast charts right now, and we want to continue to climb, so we need your help. Subscribe, turn on automatic downloads, and leave us a review. That helps us a ton over there. I want to thank a few of our sponsors, the Roke Shop. Visit rokeshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your Roke Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever else you in life, the Roke Shop has something that has you covered. And our friends at the Vibe Vault, you can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite E in Phoenix City, Alabama. That's right next to the Renfro Supermarket and the Marco's Pizza. The Vibe Vault, they keep me fresh. I'm going to see them tomorrow since we don't have a game, and I'm going to get clean before the Mercer game. Not just barbers over there, lifestyle consultants. Last but certainly not least, we want to thank our friends at Abel's I Know More and Associates. You don't need a big balance to get big advice at Abel's I Know More and Associates. There's no minimum to start your initial portfolio review. It's completely complimentary. Whether you're just starting to invest, a do-it-yourself investor, or in the final stages of planning for retirement, AMA's fiduciary advisors will meet you where you are. No sales pitch, no pressure, just honest guidance. Call AMA at 912-777-4128. Scan the QR code on your screen or visit AIMAINC.com. It costs nothing to talk, and it could change everything for you. The War Report has been compensated by Abel's I Know More and Associates for this endorsement. Abel's I Know More and Associates is a SEC registered investment advisor. Registration as an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training. Let's jump into it. Caesar, Auburn is on the hunt for a head coach, and John Cohen is busy interviewing people right now as we speak, all week. We got some reports that there were a few interviews this week. We're going to run through a couple of those names. But before we get into this, we did not get a chance to talk to you on our normal midweek report. I wanted to get your thoughts on the coaching search, man. Auburn has to get this right. They have to get this right. And I said this on social media today because everyone keeps asking me, who's the right coach? And you know what mistake, I was asked this by Dustin of the Up-Tempo, what mistake does John Cohen have to avoid this time? My answer was he's got to avoid the mistake of hiring a coach whose past success is not relevant to what college football is today. I don't care what you did 10 years ago. The game is different today than it was 10 years ago, and you need a coach with his best years in front of him, not behind him. I would argue Hugh Freeze's best years were already behind him when Auburn hired him. And you needed his best years to be in front of him because you needed him to do something that you've done at Auburn, but that he has not done in his career yet. And that's win a championship. He beat Saban, sure. But did he win an SEC West championship? No. Did he win an SEC title? No. Did he win a national title? No. Did he go undefeated? No. Come on, man. You need a guy who has his best years in front of him. And, you know, it's possible they interviewed that guy this week. It's possible that guy is already on staff. But I wanted to get your thoughts, man, on the type of man that Auburn needs to go out and hire.
I would like to add to your point. I would like for John Cohen to avoid hiring someone who specializes at one thing.
Ooh.
Offensive guru. Defensive savant. Right? Like we've the past couple of hires, these people have been known for doing a thing really well. And in today's college football, you need a head coach who is involved, but has a good track record of not only hiring good assistants, but empowering to do well. I heard a point that you guys made about Nick Saban, and I was thinking about the assistants who are now head coaches, not just coordinators, assistants, guys who coached position groups who are now running football programs, P4 programs across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I think finding someone who has an amazing organizational skill, someone who can not only run a football team, but run a company, like that detailed level of organization is something that I would like John Cohen to look at. And in his interviews and conversations with coaches, would I want this person to run a company? Would this company do well if this person was the CEO of that company? How well would it do? That's that kind of, because that's the kind of coach you need at a program like an Auburn, or Georgia, Alabama, or Texas. Someone who is an amazing in terms of running an organization. They're organized, Mike. Which means you're not calling plays, you're not calling defense, you're not calling offense, but you empower people beneath you to run that program, and they run it like a well-run, well-organized old machine. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I would hope that Cohen is looking for.
Let me ask you this, right? Before Auburn hired Gene Chizik, everybody said 5-19. Well, they went out and they got Cam Newton. And they got enough pieces to make a run at a national title by his second year on the Plains in 2010. You know, they went out and they got Michael Dyer. And you know, there were other things wrong with the Chizik regime. But Charlie Five said this on a show that we did recently. My guy Kyle Rush over at the barn, I call him Charlie Five. But he said that losing doesn't always beget losing when a coach is on the rise. So he may have a losing record, but does that mean he's going to be a loser in the future? And you know, I know where he was going with that, right? Like, but at the end of the day, a lot of Auburn fans are going to be looking for a surefire home run, and I'm not sure that guy is out there. And we're going to run through the names of some of the guys that have been interviewed this week. I'm not sure that guy has been interviewed. I'm not sure the surefire home run has been interviewed. Everybody so far that Auburn has interviewed is going to be asked to accomplish something that they have not accomplished yet in terms of making a run at a national title. And so there's going to have to be some faith involved here if you're fans in John Cohen to pick a guy that may not have the most polished resume, but is the right guy to lead this program. I asked him one question about, you know, at the end of the day, there's a lot of talk about fit, and is this guy the right fit, and is he this, that, and you know, Auburn is Winning is the right fit. Caesar, winning is the right fit.
Sure.
You need a guy who can win, a guy that you can trust and just get out of his way and let him do the job. And I don't want Auburn to hire a guy that you don't have that sort of faith in. Now, they gave Stephen Pearl the head coaching job over at basketball. And look, we know what cloth Stephen Pearl is cut from. So I believe that he has autonomy to run Auburn basketball the way he wants to run Auburn basketball. Right now, they haven't lost a game. And, he said something I thought was important when Auburn won a sloppy game by a lot of points, but still sloppy. And he said, look, man, we got to get this fixed. And I'm not going to sit here and I know Auburn fans are tired of being told to be patient. Some folks thought that was a shot at Freeze, but I thought that it was him acknowledging the state of the fan base. They're hungry for a winner. Yeah. And the investment, Caesar, into the program, it had, the results have to match the investment. I want to play a clip real quick about, again, if you haven't seen the interview we did with John Cohen, I got to tell you, we've sat down with Hugh Freeze multiple times. We sat down with Brian Harsin. We sat down with Bruce. It was probably he's not even a coach, probably one of the best interviews I think that I've done since we've been doing this. I want to play this. I asked John, what's the most important thing in Auburn's next head coach? Thing or the other as athletic director. Now, obviously, you have conversations with President Roberts and other people who obviously you have to report to. But what's the number one thing you think maybe is most important in Auburn's next head football coach?
Well, my goodness, how many times did I say this a week ago? I think our kids really want the person with an edge, right? That edge factor of pushing them all the time to be the best that you can be. Now, look, when you say that as a characteristic, that doesn't ever necessarily mean that you're casting aspersions on previous coaches or anybody else. But that's what we're looking for, and our kids want to be pushed. Our kids want to be the best they can be, and quite frankly, with the weapons that we have on the offensive side of the football, it's got to be better. It's got to be better, and it's going to get better because the kids have to be pushed. The kids have to be in a position through preparation to show what their skill level can do in SEC football games, and we have to get somebody in that seat who's going to get that out of not only our offense, but our defense as well. So that's the person we're looking for.
What I hear him saying there is that we need a guy who can develop because we've got great potential offensively. DJ Durkin, he said before he said after the Vanderbilt game, as a coaching staff, we decided Cam Coleman is one of the best players in the country, and we just need to get him the damn ball. And that's what they did, and it worked. Why is it so hard to find a guy who can come in and do just that at Auburn? Feels like they haven't really consistently developed kids since Tuberville was here.
Yeah, and I don't know the answer to that. I know things was a mess when Harsin was here. Top down, Mike. It was a power struggle amongst leadership. It led to Harsin being here. Harsin didn't have the full support. Harsin was a little in over his head in some aspects of the job, not fully understanding the totality of what it means to be a head coach in the SEC of a big time program like Auburn. And I think the kids kind of suffered as a result of what was going on. You get an alignment, everyone gets on the same page, Hugh Freeze comes in. And the thing that Cohen talked about from an offensive standpoint, when you look at, to the point you made earlier, past success, it seems like a good fit because you knew the defense was on the rise. And here's a guy who has had success on the offensive side of the ball with QBs. Seemed like a no-brainer, a slam dunk. Well, Hugh Freeze didn't have that hunger, it appears, that Cohen was talking about. one of the things that I've noticed about coaches who are driven, who are on the ascent, Mike, they have a very low tolerance for players that don't have that same mentality and attitude. If a coach is driven to succeed at the next level and he is not going to fail, he has determined that he is going to succeed. He doesn't care how many stars are by your name. If you're not working hard as he's working hard, y'all aren't going to get along well. And he's going to demand excellence because that is what he embodies 24/7. He's the first one to get to the complex. He's the last. In fact, he doesn't leave. He doesn't leave the complex.
Right.
So finding that person, typically those types of people, Mike, come with a price tag, or they're off to the NFL. Right? Two of the most recent coaches who have won a national championship, one is retired and the other one is coaching for the Chargers. Right? Coaches don't stay around for long who are that driven, because it is a grind. It's taxing. And then what we're seeing with even people like Freeze, people like Urban Meyer, is that level of intensity can take a toll on them health-wise. So getting someone who's up and coming, who is young and who is driven, to me, I think is a great pickup, will be a great pickup for any program. And I think if you're Auburn, to your point, finding someone who was successful 10 years ago, I'm gonna be honest, Mike, I don't know if that's the move this time around, especially if the time is now to get it right. You want someone who has determined that nothing is going to get in the way of the goals that I've set for myself and for the team that I'm about to inherit.
Yeah, I don't care what you did 10 years ago.
Absolutely.
Quite honestly, when they hired Freeze, his success, as far as I'm concerned, at Ole Miss was irrelevant to what college football is today.
Yeah.
And the game has changed so much in just the last 3 years. When Saban retired, he said, when I realized that my message no longer resonated with athletes, he felt like it was time to hang it up and walk away. He preached, opportunity, he preached development, he preached hard work. Nothing is promised. A lot is being promised now. Money is being promised. And with that money, you have a commitment to play the guys that you paid.
Yeah.
You need a coach who understands that concept now. It is completely unconscionable after watching Derek Nix call the offense solely for 1 week that Cam Coleman doesn't lead the SEC in receiving.
Yeah.
Your success and that metric go hand in hand.
Agreed.
Week after week, we listen to excuses for why they couldn't just throw Cam the damn ball. Week after week. And DJ Durkin had it for 1 week, and it looked fantastic. And half the game, he was running at like 70%. 70% Cam Coleman is better than 110% of whatever you got. You need a coach who can just stop making excuses and do it. Has Auburn interviewed that guy? Well, let's get into this here in the second half of the first half. It has been reported that potentially James Franklin, in his 128-60 record, interviewed for the job. I wanted to start with this name. We put him on the thumbnail. I would say of all the guys in the running, he probably has the best winning percentage, and is the most accomplished in terms of what he has achieved at Penn State. Now, if you didn't know, James Franklin, before he took the Penn State job, he was at Vanderbilt, so he is no stranger to the SEC. And he had his team in the playoffs just last year, right? I think Penn State was in the playoffs or year before, but he was one game away from a national title. Again, there's going to be a lot of talk about fit, Caesar, and whether he's a good fit or whatever. But talk to me about James Franklin and this record. I think of all the prospects out there, he is the most intriguing. John Cohen, before we sat down for our interview, he talked to me about James Franklin as somebody who is eager to get back at it and is maybe not so concerned about the dollar amount he's getting paid. And I thought that was telling, right? Like he is hungry, according to John, and just wants to get back in there and compete. And he's one of a few coaches that have noted the talent that exists on the Plains. And I think that James thinks that he can take this talent and go really far with it. Now, these guys have to want to stay to play for him. And that's work that both John and James would have to do if he were to get the job. But what do you think about it? Chat, we want to hear from you as well, too. If you're watching on Twitter right now, it's a bunch of you jumping in here. I know you'll continue to file in as we stay live, but let us know what you think about James Franklin as potentially Auburn's next head football coach. Yeah, what do you think, Caesar?
From afar, I've liked James Franklin. From afar. I have been impressed with what he did during his time in the SEC when he coached at Vandy. He won a lot of games. Vandy won games when James Franklin was leading that program. That he was able to land a major job in a Big Ten school in Penn State, and they won a lot of games. A great recruiter, someone who, from a head coaching standpoint, can truly be the face of a program because he sells himself he presents himself really well. He's the type of coach where if he has the last visit to a kid, he's going to do well. He's going to do well with that kid's parents, right? Like he has those types of things about him. The big knock on him, obviously, is his record in big games. That's the biggest knock against him. The reason why I'm hesitant about him, Mike, is some of the problems that Auburn is trying to solve for, Franklin was trying to solve for at Penn State. It's almost like Penn State mirrored Auburn in some aspects. Good defense, but QBs who aren't developing or reaching their potential. Talent on offense, but an offense that isn't reaching its ceiling or its potential. Floor is way too low, right? And so you need to get this hire right because really and truly, Mike, that's the missing piece when it comes to Auburn in terms of because you got the talent. Defense has been playing well. You need to be able to get someone who can put things together offensively. And that's been something that over a period of time, Penn State just hasn't really blown people out of the water offensively. They've played amazing defense and they've done just enough offensively. And I don't know. Combine that with big games, that worries me about James Franklin. You're probably looking at an 8 or 9 win in Auburn under James Franklin. And I think people are ready for Auburn to not only get back to where they were when they fired Gus, but to surpass that because that's why you fired Gus to begin with. And with James Franklin, I don't know. I don't know if his best days are behind him. And that's my hesitation with him.
Yeah. That is my hesitation as well, too. He's still got a lot of hunger and fire and drive, and he still wants this really, really badly. So I don't doubt that. He's got a ton left in the tank to give. And I would say quarterback development maybe would worry me a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, what gangbusters quarterback did Penn State have under James Franklin? Chat, help me out here, right? Like who?
He had good running backs.
Yeah,
right.
I have a friend who is she is the most massive Penn State fan ever. We were friends in Phoenix, and she ran all the Orange Theories in my area. But like, she was always there wasn't a quarterback she ever liked. We'd go to the bar on Saturdays, and she'd be like, "This guy sucks," every Saturday. And it felt like they were close. Now, I think it was 2016, maybe, that was an absolute travesty for Penn State, where they beat Ohio State, but somehow got left out of the playoffs. It was, it was wild. It was a wild scenario. I don't remember the exact scenario. I just remember that they won the Big 10, if I remember correctly, and then somehow got Ohio State jumped them at the end of the season. Look, I think, is that the best? If that was the best that it could get for Auburn, would you be happy? We talked about this when we talked about Mark Richt. I mean, in 15 seasons at Georgia, he had one season where he won less than 8 games. And Georgia had to make the decision to move on from him. They got it right, obviously, with Kirby Smart. But they've had 2 coaches since 2001. Georgia has.
Wow.
They've only had 2 coaches since 2001. So in a quarter century, only 2 guys have coached the Georgia Bulldogs. Auburn needs a guy that can sit in the seat for the next 10 years. Is that James Franklin? Could you see James Franklin being the coach here for the next 10 years?
I could. He was at Penn State a while.
Listen, man, he was at Penn State quite a bit. 128 and 60 record. He had to be there.
I just the concern is if you didn't beat Michigan and Ohio State enough, are you going to beat Georgia and Bama enough? Right? Mm-hmm. That may not even be fair, but again, in big games, he has a record that's less desirable, and you're going to be playing big. And keep in mind, you don't have as many bottom feeders in the SEC as you once did.
Yeah.
Vandy is no longer the Vandy of old, at least not this year.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some teams that would scare you who are bottom feeders or were bottom feeders this year, right? So you don't have teams to fatten up your record just in case you miss out on beating Bama and Georgia in a given year. So again, it's going to be a big game week after week in the SEC. Can you handle that grind for an extended period of time? That's my concern with James. And for what it's worth, Mike, I don't see a lot of Auburn fans really all that excited about James Franklin when I hear comments.
Yeah, I'm looking at the comments here. Again, we're going to get to the comments after we're going to talk about one more name, and then we're going to get to the comments after the break. It's going to be interesting here, but again, James Franklin reportedly interviewed for the job this week, and we'll see where we go from here.
Let me ask you this: Does it bother you that he did get fired?
Not really.
Does that doesn't play a factor for you?
No, because guys get fired all the time in this business. It's norm. I think we should just normalize the idea that just because you got fired doesn't mean that you're a bad coach. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Just because you got fired doesn't mean you're a bad coach. And I think
Auburn's,
that
Auburn's goals, because you said championship, is there a coach that you know of that got fired that went on to lead a team to a national championship? Maybe not his next team, but he still ascended to national championship relevancy. That's just in context of what Auburn's goals are.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
A coach that got fired, is there a precedent where he's gotten fired and went on to do big things?
That's rough. I can't think of one.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't think of one.
I'm not saying that Franklin's will go the way of those other coaches. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's something to think about. Certainly, it's definitely something to think about.
Gotcha.
Caesar reportedly, again, Kenny Dillingham, I know was a person of interest, confirmed, and reportedly received an interview. His 2015 record at Arizona State. Now, he famously won the Big 12 last year, and they took Texas to the brink in that playoff game with running back Cam Scatteraboo and Sam Levitt. Look, Kenny is a guy we know. He was the offensive coordinator here under Gus in 2019. However, he did not call plays. So, what do you think about this? Again, this is a younger name here at a place where he found success in the Big 12. Could that success translate to Auburn? And does he fit the mold of a coach whose best years are in front of him?
I would
Kenny
like to
Dillingham.
think. I would like to think that his best years are in front of him, given as though he just started as a head coach not too long ago. I'm starting to warm up to the idea of a Kenny Dillingham. I
Okay.
really am. I at first I thought that he was home. He didn't want to leave his alma mater. He's having success there. He can easily get to the college football playoff from where he coaches. But I am beginning to, obviously, he's one of the people who interview. So you don't interview for a job you're not interested in, Mike. And the very thing that he is begging for at Arizona State, he would have an abundance of here at Auburn. He's a young guy, so he'll be able to relate really well to the coaches. I've been impressed with what he has done, given the talent that he's been entrusted with. When he had Bo, he threw the ball a lot. Scatterboo at Arizona State, he ran the ball a lot. Like, basically, he tailored the offense to the strengths of his best players. I like that. So it's not a system that you're trying to force feed players into to get a result. You tailor your offense to the strengths of your players. That's another thing that I like in a future head coach or offensive coach, that someone can actually adapt their offense. That's a good start. I think with him, assuming he wants him, I like the idea of pairing him with DJ Durkin. I do like that. I think Dillingham could recruit really well. I really do. So I'm starting to warm up to him. I didn't think that he would leave Arizona State, but it seems as though that's a possibility. So considering him for the job, if Auburn hired him, I wouldn't be mad at it.
On a personal note for Dillingham, the pay ceiling would be massive compared to what he would get at Arizona State. I think, like, again, you're unlimited opportunities to advance on that pay scale if you win at Auburn. Now, I don't know if they would pay him top dollar out of the gate, but certainly it feels like the market for coaches rising to that minimum $7 to $9 million a year number in the SEC, where if you're making less than that, you're like, anybody making less than $7 million is like a second chance coach. Like, we know you can coach, but you really effed up at your last job. So we're not paying you.
It's rehab money.
Yeah. Right. Like, you get rehab money, certainly if you if you come with baggage.
There's a story that I read about Dillingham, because you guys asked the question about, does he call his own plays? He doesn't. He handed off play calling. He told a story about, I don't remember what game it was, but it was a 4th and 1, Mike. And they called a pass play. I think it was a play action pass play or some sort. He's in the headset, and he goes, 4th and 1. Shouldn't we run the ball here? And he says, no one on the offensive staff said anything. Just quiet. So he just let them rock. And I can't remember if it was at least a chunk play or a touchdown they scored on that play. And he said, that's when I realized I need to stay out of it. I need to let these guys, I need to trust my guys. They know what they're doing. They're locked in. They got it. I just need to stay away and manage it from as a head coach. For him to be that young, Mike, and to get that, like, he gets it. Like, the very thing you want a head coach to, we wanted our previous head coach to do, it seems like Dillingham gets that. And he's going to need that should he become a head coach at a school like Auburn. He's going to need to have people in place that he can trust to run the offense and defense and stay out of it. Stay in your lane and be the head coach. That impressed me in him. And again, it's one of the reasons why I've been open to the idea of him, because again, when you say a coach who understands what it takes to succeed in today's football, I think Dillingham gets that.
Yeah, look, man, it's a different beast in the SEC we've eliminated divisions. Auburn has probably one of the more brutal schedules coming up next year, where we talked about after they eliminated the divisions, the Mississippi schools went away, LSU went away. They both come back. Mississippi State, Ole Miss, LSU come back to the schedule, but Tennessee and Florida return with them next year. Yikes, man. And you have Alabama and Georgia on the road. Auburn's next head coach is going to be in for a hell of a ride. And you open your season with Baylor in Atlanta. There's going to be no shortage of excitement on that schedule for whoever gets the job here. We're about at the midway point. Again, Kenny Dillingham, reportedly a name that interviewed this week. I know that Auburn was interested, very interested in him. And look, man.
What are your thoughts on him?
I think you need offense. I think you need offense, and you need a guy. Now, John Cohen said this. He said he said a couple things about this coaching search. He said, I think Auburn fans would be surprised at the names that are interested in this job. But one of the things that's attracting them is the roster. But multiple high-profile candidates have inquired about whether DJ Durkin would be willing to stay on if he got passed over for the job, and they got the job. So there are more than one of these candidates are open to the idea of keeping Durkin on staff, keeping the defense intact, keeping a lot of those players on that side of the ball, and going out and building offensively. I cannot imagine there's a world in which Cam Coleman does not receive one of the biggest NIL offers we've ever seen for a wide receiver this offseason. Whatever his deal is, tear it up and drop the bat. He should be a $4 million man next year. Keep him on the roster for the next coach. You moved this game to Atlanta, and you did all it's just for money. That's why Auburn did it.
Is that a prerequisite for you that the coach has to, if let's just say,
I think Cam would play for Dillingham in Dillingham offense. I do.
Even if he doesn't keep Durkin?
Yeah, I think that Cam on the offensive side, I do. I think Cam buys into the idea that you bring in a coach like Dillingham, because Dillingham's just going to get him the ball. Yeah. And it's one thing to Caesar. It's one thing to not get the ball, but your team is winning. And it's another thing to not get the ball and watch everybody around you fail in a bad system.
Yeah.
So while I don't want to celebrate moral victories against Vanderbilt, it was at least encouraging that if they go the route with this staff, that there is a world where Cam racks up numbers and goes top 10 in the NFL draft. If you don't get him drafted in the first round, Auburn failed miserably. They failed this kid miserably.
Sure.
And the association with losing hurts you. There's no reason that Cam shouldn't be a first round pick. And that's on all. That's not on Cam. That's on Auburn. What did we see before Hugh Freeze got fired? Cam was dropping passes he normally catches. He's caught his whole life.
Yeah.
You change the play caller. You change the quarterback. You change the play calling, and suddenly he made 3 SportsCenter top 10 worthy catches in that game, en route to his best game as a college athlete against a top 15 team on the road. He could have been doing that the whole season. Whatever coach comes in needs to have a system and a plan that doesn't mess up this kind of talent. I think Hugh Freeze made the massive mistake of thinking that all the 5-star talent would cover whatever his system lacked, and it didn't. You can absolutely run 5-star talent into the ground. We saw Jimbo do it.
Yeah.
A $30 million roster, man, and missing a bowl game. No way. That's where Auburn is at right now. You got top 15 roster, and you're looking at missing a bowl game if you can't win your last two. No way with Cam Coleman should that have been a possibility. No way with Perry Thompson. No way with Eric Singleton Jr. Ashley Daniels has been on your bench this whole season. Are you kidding me?
You have one of the worst passing attacks in college football.
And the dude you did start, you gave the job without a competition. Talk about a
but he did that with every QB he brought in out the
yeah, it's just but you better be right. If that's the way you're doing it, you got to be right
or know what you're doing.
Right, and then you didn't come off that decision until the season was almost effed.
Yeah,
it had to be FUBAR before you would make a change. The next coach needs to be able to make the decisions right the first time that help the Cam Colemans. Because Cam can do a lot of things. What he can't do is he can't throw himself the ball.
Right.
So, they owe these kids this back, man. And I think that's a lot of the work that John Cohen is doing. I have a clip that we're going to play after the break, kind of talking about, John Cohen and his discussions with the players, Caesar. And then we're going to talk about one more name here that had, interest in the job that Auburn was at least in talks with their people. I don't think he interviewed this week. So let's get to the break. And when we come back, we're going to talk more Auburn coaching search. This is your midweek report special. We're here on a Friday night, guys. Let's pay some bills. We'll be right back.
This edition of the War Report is brought to you by our generous sponsors. Golden's Cast Iron. Whether you work out, grill out, or chill out, you deserve the best life possible, and Golden's Cast Iron is here to provide the tools to help you do it. Check them out at goldenscastiron.com.
The Rage Room. The Rage Room is a place where anger and stress find their ultimate release. Set up a session today at one of the two great locations in Opelika or Birmingham by visiting opelikaRageRoom.com or BirminghamRageRoom.com.
Guys, join up as a member. This is a great thing to do. We got film reviews. We've got a game day experience unlike any other. You don't want to miss a single second of that. Help support the work that we're doing by hitting that join button. $5.99 a month will get you there. Ike traveled to every single road game on behalf of the War Report. That was made possible in part by your financial support. We appreciate you guys for helping us stay on the road here. Auburn basketball is in season. We will follow them just as hard, but we need your help. Sign up as a member. You can give the gift of the War Report by smashing that gifted membership button. We appreciate our community for helping us grow our community. I want to thank our friends at Sky Tobacco and Vape. Ever run out of vape juice at 10 p.m. and think, well, that's it? Well, not with Sky Tobacco and Vape around. They've got more locations than the Waffle House, Columbus, Phoenix City. They're everywhere. Whether you're on the thruway, the bypass, or just lost a bad direction, Sky Tobacco and Vape is probably 10 feet away. They've got vapes, tobacco, and deals so good you'll swear they misprinted the price tags. Sky Tobacco and Vape, good vibes, great deals, and zero judgment if you walk in at 10 p.m. in your pajama pants. I want to thank our friends at the Vibe Vault. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite E in Phoenix City, Alabama. Get fresh for the weekend with the Vibe Vault, not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. I want to thank our friends at AMA, that's Abel's Iron Moore and Associates. If you're a small business owner, you have a lot on your plate, growing the business, taking care of employees, and usually what suffers the most are your personal assets. At Abel's Iron Moore and Associates, their fiduciary advisors are a resource for business owners to make sure that their personal assets are getting the same required attention that they give their business every day. Call AMA at 912-777-4128. Again, that's 912-777-4128. Scan the QR code on your screen or visit AIMAINC.com to schedule your initial consultation. The War Report has been compensated by Abel's Iron Moore and Associates for this endorsement. AMA is a SEC registered investment advisor. Registration as an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training. Check us out on podcasts, all the podcast platforms. We are there with the Auburn Express, Upper Tempo, College Loop, Just a Sec, and the War Report Gaming channel. We are climbing the podcast charts. Teaser, the War Report charts as a top 100 football podcast in the entire country. That is entirely due to you guys, the listeners, turning us up and turning us on every single day. There's not a day of the week we don't drop content on podcasts. So if you want your Auburn fix, head on over to podcast and check us out. Let's jump back in here. There was
read the comments.
Yeah, you know what? I do. and we will. Let's do that. There are a ton of comments here. Jeremy Bailey says Franklin's 15-28 versus top 25, 4-20 versus top 10. Hell to the gnaw. Jeremy says hell to the gnaw.
I mean, people are going to mention his record in big games.
How
And
relevant is that? Do you think? Does that matter? I mean, could it be different at Auburn though? Penn State is not a place where I would say they lacked resources.
It's a big deal because it's in the Big Ten.
Okay.
I think if he was in a group of 5, it wouldn't be as big of a deal.
Mhm.
But I think it's a big deal because you have your fair share of big games every year. And you should be winning your fair share, which he has, but just for the time that he was at Penn State, it is a concern. It is a concern because, again, what he did at Penn State in a weird way mirrored what Auburn has been experiencing for quite some time. Good defense, not winning enough big games as you would like to. Offense, the floor is too low. QB play, floor is too low. Again, it's almost like it's status quo if you get Franklin in a sense. Like there's no track record of him solving for the problems you're currently solving for. That's the big concern with. So the question marks to me, I think, are fair.
All right. Judd Lisenby became a member. Guys, follow his lead to join as a member. We appreciate Judd for joining up. Jeremy Bailey comes back and says, I agree. Don't care so much about the resume, but if can't act a fraction as intimidating or intense as Elko, then I don't want him near Auburn. Elko is such an interesting name. In a discussion I had this week with SEC Mike, he talked about Mike Elko and saying, like, Texas A&M didn't go out and get the sexy name. They just went and got a solid football coach, and look where they're at. And when you combine that with the resources that they have at Texas A&M, bam, right now they are in the driver's seat to be a number 1 seed in a college football playoff. Toppy says the one positive of getting Franklin would be getting a Key and Peele skit out of it. Hopefully that's a skit about winning a championship. Thomas Bradley says, why in the hell would you want a coach that got fired the same year? I'm so tired of going for sloppy seconds. Anthony Grant over on Facebook, new blood, but can evaluate and develop talent. I think that's the key there. You need a guy who can definitely evaluate. Bourbon Tiger in Auburn says, I know we have weeks before a decision is announced and we need to fill airspace and fuse. But Mike, you've talked about this. Don't overthink it. Right now, it's DJ's job to lose. Period.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Like, I don't know that it's his job to lose.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if I agree with that.
But
I think he has an opportunity to really make this a difficult decision for Cohen, but it's not his job to lose.
Yeah, I don't know if he's in the and I will tell you after my interview with John Cohen, both with what was said on camera and some of the stuff he told me off, I believe he has a shot at the job. I do not think he's in the driver's seat.
Right. We said name a coach who got fired and went on to win a national title. Ed Orgeron.
He got fired at Ole Miss, right?
And by the way, because people start naming like people may have got fired in the NFL or what? No, college. I'm talking college.
Yes.
You got fired at a college program and then got hired again and won a national title. Ed Orgeron is one. He is definitely
Auburn. He
an amazing guest, Bourbon Tiger.
Okay,
amazing guest.
He also wasn't he like interim?
He got fired again.
Took over.
So now
he was like interim though, and then took over LSU, wasn't he?
That is true. He was an interim because he didn't get hired straight up. He was a defensive line coach. The Mad Hatter got fired. Les Miles. He then is the interim. They start winning games. They said, let's run it back with Ed Orgeron. He brings in some amazing coordinators, amazing talent. The rest is history. Did get fired a few years later.
Interesting.
But he did win one. That is one. I will grant him that. That is one.
Bourbon Tiger at Auburn wins trivia night.
Yes, he does.
But
my point still stands is that is not a common thing.
Yeah, that's hard. It's really hard to find that. James Head says, look at the difference between Jackson and Ashton and tell me Freeze don't know that from day one and was being biased. Well, he wasn't here in the spring. Ashton wasn't. So it would have been a shorter evaluation period from summer to fall camp. But certainly, again, if you've already settled on one, it is really, really difficult to give the other a real good look. Again, you've got that bias ingrained in you. And they brought Jackson here to start. And you settled on Deuce being a project. And I think that it put you in a bad position with everybody else when Jackson just didn't work out.
Yeah.
I'm not totally convinced that Jackson Arnold wouldn't have been a better Jackson Arnold with Derek Dix as the sole play.
He would have been better. I don't know if he would have been as good as Ashton Daniels, but he would have been better than because it's Mike, after what we saw, the type of offense that Hugh Freeze trotted out there week after week, no one was going to succeed in that offense. To see what Ashton Daniels looked like from 1 week to the next with a completely different play caller, I absolutely believe that Jackson Arnold could have been better than what he was. I absolutely believe that. Would he have been as good as Ashton Daniels? Probably not. I think it was very telling that the coaching staff, just days after Hugh Freeze was let go, decisively went with Ashton Daniels. That was very telling to me.
Decisively, like early in the week.
Yes. They didn't play this funny game where we're going to see how they do. No, Ashton's our starter. That's very telling to me.
James Wesley Allen comes back. We need to stop getting coaches that use Auburn as coaching rehab and who we have no investment in Auburn and its expectations. They cannot relate to Auburn and the SEC. Plus, there are no game-changing coaches out there. Durkin is the guy. He loves Auburn. The players love him, and he's invested. I love this comment because it's going to lead into what we're going to talk about next. Chris with the $4.99 super chat says James Franklin's have a winning record. He can win the championship. Well, I mean, maybe. Harold Greer gifted 5 War Report memberships. We appreciate him for doing that. In my discussion with John Cohen, we sat down and asked him about if he is taking input from the players. And he had an interesting answer, but he's certainly doing the work. Let's listen real quick to what John Cohen had to say about taking player input on the next hire.
Yeah, you said that you spoke with some athletes already. The portal will open once you hire a new coach. But what is your confidence level in your conversations with these athletes that you'll be able to put a plan in place that they will buy into and say, I want to remain here at Auburn University? One of the things that we've heard even from the guys who have transferred out is Auburn is a really, really hard community to want to leave. It's not just about football. It's about leaving what they built here socially. It's about leaving their friends. It's about not having Guthrie's a mile away. I mean, they love it here. People love it here. And as somebody who went to school here, I can tell you it is a very hard community to leave. Do you think that all those things are going to be strong enough to keep, your main guys like Cam Coleman, guys like Perry Thompson, these top 50 overall guys here on the Plains?
I was just talking to one of the leaders on our football team, and I had a really good conversation with him, and that's exactly what he said to me. He said, John, there isn't one football player on this team who wants to leave Auburn. Now, they might have some financial obligations they feel like they might have to take care of, and maybe there's something out there that's better than what we can do. I think every school in the SEC, every school, the Alabamas, the Georgias, everybody, the LSUs, everybody we compete against has an elite player who ends up going somewhere else because of the financial commitments that they have, maybe for themselves or for their families. And I understand that. I'm not gonna question that. But it was great to hear one of our leaders, and I'm going to speak to more of them this week, but one of our leaders say not one of our football players wants to leave Auburn because they love Auburn. And I've been here 3 years, and I completely understand why they love Auburn.
John Cohen doing the work of talking to the players and understanding where they're at. Auburn, a really, really tough place to leave, Caesar. And part of that is the culture. You and I, we know Auburn well. We went to school there. And one of the, again, names reported to have had interest in the job. I think Auburn has made contact with their representatives. It was Eli Drinkwitz and his 56-27 record at Mizzou. Our girl Taylor Davis over at ESPN knows, like, there's a relationship there.
Yeah.
I don't.
No, big no for her. Yeah.
She said as much on the show, so I can say that.
I saw it.
I tend to agree with her on Drinkwitz. Now, look, I think that he's done a lot with what he has at Mizzou, and I think the track record of player development and being able to find good quarterbacks definitely a positive. I think Auburn can do better. I think Auburn can do better than Eli. But
yes, I agree with that statement.
I have a source that told me that Eli was one of the coaches that also would have been open to keeping Durkin on staff if he took the job. So, what do you, again, I'm sensing that you're a hard no on Eli, but talk to me, man. He knows the landscape of the SEC. Is this a guy that you bring in to be the coach of your football team?
I'm going to surprise you. It's not a hard no here.
Okay.
It's not a hard no. Here's the thing. He struggled the first few years at Missouri. I get it. He's quirky. He's kind of socially awkward. He's done things that has made him not really all that likable. But what I have been impressed with, what impresses me, Mike, is when a coach can have a 10-win season at a program that doesn't have the resources as an Auburn, doesn't have the athletes and players as an Auburn, but you're able to enter the month of November still in playoff contention for the third year straight. After your roster has turned over and you've lost key pieces, that tells me that he has a process and a system in place. He has hired really good coaches around him.
Okay.
And he's losing when he faces the Georgias of the world, which he's supposed to, because they have better athletes and the same system and coaching staff that he has. Right? That's the ultimate equalizer there. He's not my first choice. Don't get me wrong. But if you solve for his problems, he solves for some of Auburn's problems. Because he's going to give the ball to his playmakers. He's going to do that. And you give him access to NIL to get the players that he wasn't able to get at Missouri. In my opinion, you could do worse than Eli. He's not my preferred choice. But if Auburn settled on him, I wouldn't be irate about it.
Okay.
That's my thoughts.
All right. Look, it's interesting here. We got a couple of calling them Dan Mullen 2.0. Eli's like 0-18 against teams above 500 in the SEC. That's a stat for you. You probably need better. You need a guy who can get you over the hump.
Is that true?
Like I can't fact check. I mean, if you fact check this. But yeah, Torta specialist says he's 0-18 against teams above 500 in the SEC.
That can't be true.
That can't be true.
That cannot be true.
You
You don't go 11-2 and play no one
If
in
you didn't beat
2023.
one team over 500,
Yeah, that I don't know. Let me look at that. I gotta look at that. I don't know if I agree with that.
That would be an incredible stat. All right, I don't even
That
know.
is an amazing stat.
Could he still be employed? Do that? Yeah. James Head said Summerall is Napier or Brian.
Yeah,
Harsin
dude, he beat Tennessee in 2023, and they were like they finished the season 9-4, and they were ranked.
I was like, wait, what? Yeah, no way.
That didn't even sound right. That didn't even sound. That sounded far fetched.
Wait, what? You know, there's an idea in the national media that Auburn is a bad job, and you know, we've seen Joel Klatt went on one of the most ridiculous rants I think I've seen ever about Auburn being a little sister to Alabama in state. There was another national media pundit that called Auburn buyout U. And I'm like, yes, the number of coaches, yes, but still, if you total up,
it's kind of funny.
you know, Harson's buyout and Hughes' buyout, it's still less than what Franklin is getting paid from Penn State or Brian Kelly or Jimbo Fisher.
If anyone's buyout you it's A&M.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you gave 8 generations worth of wealth to one dude in a buyout. I'm not buying it. I think that, yes, you made some poor decisions in terms of coaching hires, but the buyouts have not been massive here for Auburn. So at the end of the day, you know, Hughes' buyout was like, I mean, that was almost like single check writing territory for Jimmy Rain. Like, you know what? Just here's one check. We're done with you. Yeah. I'm Auburn can get this right. And I asked John Cohen, what is your message to the coaching pool, to the guys out there who potentially want to coach Auburn? This is what he had to say.
What's your message to any candidate who might be qualified but interested in the Auburn head coaching job about the type of support that they're going to get here? You made a lot of financial moves to put Auburn in a good position to compete, and it seems like that should be attractive to anybody.
Yeah, you know, what's surprising about this is not really surprising, but what's interesting to me about this is it's not the messaging we have to the candidates. It's the candidates messaging to us. Do you realize how good a job this is? Do you realize how many great kids you have in this program? Do you understand how talented your roster is right now? I mean, we've had candidates say to us, we have top 10 in the nation talent, and I don't doubt that for 1 minute. I think we do have top 10 talent, and that is because, and I'm going to give Coach Freeze some credit here, he, along with our staff, have really upgraded the talent on both sides of the football. Yeah. But for whatever reason, it just hasn't happened on the offensive side of the football. It became stagnant, and I mentioned this before in a presser a week ago. If we just had average offense, I mean, just average numbers on the offensive side of the football.
You're a lost team right now.
Yeah, we're probably a 1-loss. Worst case scenario, I think we're a 2-loss team, and we're still in that hunt for the CFP. But that unfortunately didn't happen, and we have to find out exactly why that happened, and we have to make an adjustment at the top and find somebody who can make that adjustment for us.
He both gave Coach Freeze credit and then said, yeah, but you ain't do shit with it. So we got to find a guy who can do some shit with it.
Yeah.
Look, the coaching candidates are saying you have top 10 talent. And the roster is part of what's attracting some of these big names to the job. Everybody's interested in potentially coaching Cam Coleman. But you got to keep Cam, and you got to keep Perry, and you got to keep Jeremiah, and you got to keep Alvin Henderson, and you got to keep Eric Singleton. And if the roster walks out, it's not the same job.
But that's after you hire the person. You got to get the hire right.
Yeah. Do they need to get buy-in before the hire, though? Right? Like, I would think that, look, man, I'm going and sitting down with the leaders of the team, and I'm getting the buy-in first so that I know when I make the hire that these guys are going to be open to staying.
I look at it a little differently. I'm talking to the kids on that team, and their input informs my hiring decision. If you have people who have expressed interest in this job and you know what's important to these kids, then you're looking for someone who basically can meet these kids where they are. That's really that to me. I think that informs your decision as to that goes into the decision or the decision-making process of who the next coach is going to be. Right? It's not necessarily we want this guy, but what are some things that you need to be successful? What are some things that you need to be successful at Auburn? And then find a coach who's able to bring a plan with him, a process, a system with him that guarantees those kids succeed at Auburn. I don't think those kids head straight for the portal when you find someone who can truly get these kids on board and help them meet their goals. The initial goals they had, Mike, when they signed the dotted line to come to Auburn, those goals are still intact because I'm here. Find that guy. That's to me, that's the approach, in my opinion. And what it says to me, listening to that clip, is Auburn is a great job. And to me, I think Auburn came out of this situation with Hugh Freeze better than they did when Hugh Freeze got here. You could have made the argument Auburn wasn't a good job before Hugh Freeze got here because of what happened with the whole Harsin debacle, because of what happened with the power struggle. We've talked about the statements that Oklahoma's coach made. He didn't know who he would be reporting to. Like that was very damning for Auburn. But the very fact that you have, the very fact that you had alignment this time around, the very fact that Hugh Freeze got everything he needed in terms of NIL support, resources, and patience from this administration to build an impressive roster. Coaches see that, Mike, and they say, shoot, if I had that, I would win more. I can get Auburn to the playoff and compete for a championship. Auburn looks so much better after 2.5 years of truly being in alignment and going all in on a coach they felt could take them to the promised land. To me, you now have the attention of a lot of good coaches across the country who, if they had that opportunity, they would make something out of it.
Yeah, Auburn is a great job. Auburn is a top 10 job. With the resources, with the facilities, with the stadium. But one of the other things that Cohen noted to me, and I believe he said this on camera, he may have said it off camera, was that all the candidates were remarking on the fact that Auburn has sold out all these games these last 3 years.
Then there's that.
In losing seasons.
Then there's that. Yeah.
The undying support and the unconditional support of the fan base has been an absolute nugget for these coaches that are interested in this job. I was there at Kentucky. Unfortunately, I posted the video of the 20,000 people who stayed to chant fire Hugh, but they didn't come to the game for that. They came to support Hugh. They came for a win against Kentucky, who is definitely the worst team in the SEC. And what they got was 0 touchdowns. And if you are a potential head coaching candidate, I know you believe in yourself enough to know that whatever team you put together can deliver better than no touchdowns. 11 points wins that game. And Hugh may live to see another week. The answer potentially was on his staff. Like, when John says in that clip, he said, we've got to figure out why it didn't work. We know answer to we know at least some of the answer to that.
Yeah.
Because the very next week, Derek Nix was the sole play caller and they dialed up 38 points on the road. I got called a clown for suggesting that they could drop 40 on Vandy with a change in play callers.
And could have very easily had if you had scored a point in overtime.
They dropped 40 on Vandy. For all intents and purposes, they dropped 40 on Vandy. Now, the defense had what I would say was definitely their worst game of the season, but against one of the better quarterbacks in our league. Against a team that is absolutely on a generational roll for them right now.
Yeah.
So this has been, I think, a very eye-opening process. Auburn, I'm not sure Auburn was in a position to hire a better coach than Coach Freeze 3 years ago. They are 100% in a better position to hire a better coach now, though. Because when Harsin got fired, it was widely believed in circles that he had no chance here.
That's what I'm saying. The Auburn job didn't look all that great.
His
when
peers
Harsin got fired.
Yeah, were very sympathetic to his plight.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, and that's not me saying that he was a great coach here or good fit or any of that. I'm just saying when he was a dead man walking when he took the job.
Because of the dysfunction that was at Auburn played themselves as well with the Harsin departure. The whole situation. Auburn did not come out looking as good after that situation.
Yeah, right. So fast forward 3 years later, and now what you see is a coach that got every resource, got his support from his AD. John Cohen, every show he went on. Last year, before we played Oklahoma, I was getting ready to go on the Feinbaum show with Nathan King live at the old athletic department. And John Cohen went on right before us. And I listened to him make an impassioned defense of Hugh Freeze. He talked about the roster rebuild. He talked about all these things that he felt like if we're so close and this coach just needs a little bit more time. You cannot accuse John of not supporting this coach. He did until he absolutely could not anymore.
Yeah.
After we started SEC play, loss after loss started to pile up, and he wanted it for him so bad he went to midfield against Georgia to jaw at the referees, Caesar, for the terrible job that they were doing. But it put him in a position where he was left with no other choice but to fire the guy he hired and move on. They've got to get this one right.
Agreed.
John, I love you, brother, but you're not going to get a third chance to hire a football coach here.
Well, you're not going to get a third chance if you get the second one wrong, for sure. I agree. Yes, this is very important. This is very, and to me, I like Ike. I was excited about what Hugh Freeze was going to do for Auburn offensively as well as in the QB position. I'm just as befuddled as he is, as John Cohen is, as Ike is. I don't know if he went to the sunken place before he got to Auburn and someone else is inhabiting his body. I don't know what happened to Hugh Freeze, the offensive coach, the offensive mastermind. Right. So, yeah, it seemed the hire made sense at the time to me, but I get it. Like, I give him grace, but I don't think you're going to get grace the second time around. It's all or nothing at this point.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, we've said a lot, and we're getting ready to get out of here. As always, my friend, I want to thank you for joining me on a Friday night to talk a little Auburn football. We're going to get to a few more of your comments before we get out of here. If you guys are looking for some great information on the coaching search, go support my friend Nathan King over 247. They've got a Hot Board 3.0 article out, which is the latest on Auburn's coaching search. Nathan has always been a big supporter of our channel. We want to support his work. So I please encourage you, go read his stuff and follow him on Twitter if you want to find his stuff a little easier. I promise his @ is Nathan King 247. He does a great job We appreciate him for the work that he does around Auburn sports. Let's get to a few comments here. Alex Wilson says, please just don't hire a bum. Low expectations for Alex. Alex is like, just don't hire a bum, man. Martin says, what a crazy coach. What's crazy, coach? Best season was with the players he say wasn't good enough. His best season was with the players that he continuously said
Year
was
one.
not good. Yeah, right. And I'm telling you, I screamed this year one. Stop blaming the players. Stop talking about recruiting in the aftermath of losses. Now everybody has come around on what I was saying, but at the time it was like he's got a messaging issue and needs some PR. And now folks get it. AU, the Sleeping Giant says, yep, Mike, this is it for Cohen. You can't screw this up. Got to get this hire right. It's really that simple. Our friend Omega Prime over on Facebook says Durkin is not a proven winner as well when you look at his record at Maryland. I think Durkin is better as a DC/associate head coach. I don't know that I'm using the Maryland record against him. Some weird things happened. All his quarterbacks got hurt. And there was, I wouldn't look too far into his record at Maryland as a head coach as a reason to disqualify him from the job. And I don't think that was the best he was ever going to get as a head coach, personally. These players really, when you talk about Durkin, the thing that they say about him is that he is detail-oriented, he is meticulous, he is a student himself of the game. So as he learns, he teaches, and the players recognize that. So much so, see, again, if you are just joining us on Twitter or if you have not watched the War Report ever before, we repeat a lot of things because I don't take for granted that you guys may not have heard the things that we've said before. But the players have told us that offensive and defensive practice are like two totally different football teams in the way that they do things.
Yeah.
No longer. But before Freeze got fired, it was noticeable how differently their processes were. And the results defensively, I don't think you can argue, are much better. Their process produced a much better result than what we've seen offensively. If you have a chance to affect both sides of the ball as a CEO rather than just a coordinator with that same attention to detail, it could pay big dividends for Auburn.
If he is as meticulous, if he can be as meticulous as a head coach and hire someone that he trusts to runs the defense, I can live with that hire.
Caesar, I want to close the show with a hypothetical, and I want the chat to jump in on this. Get your super chats in now. I mean, if you guys want us to stay on, super chats are the way. Otherwise, we're approaching 90 minutes here. Follow me to La La Land here for a second. I do this once a week. But what would be an acceptable year one result for Auburn's head coach if all of the talent that could stay does stay? And I'm excluding Jackson Arnold from this because I'm assuming he's going to move on. But if they start Deuce and have Jackson as a backup versus Mercer or vice versa, either way, Ashton Daniels doesn't play and you preserve his red shirt and he returns for another year to play with Cam Coleman, Malcolm Simmons, Perry Thompson, and Eric Singleton Jr., and your defensive guys that can come back do, and Durkin stays, and all other things are intact, whether it's Durkin or another head coach, what do you think a good year one record for that coach would be?
I think 8 wins is your floor. I think 8 wins is your floor. I really do.
If all the talent stays.
Yeah, I think that's your floor, Mike. Like something bad happened and you landed at 4 wins or 8 wins. I think that's your floor with the talent. With what we saw offensively at Vandy, I think 8 is your floor. If Ashton is what we think he's going to be, and you have an OC coach that knows what to do with that talent, you saw an example of what that looked like against Vandy. That defense remains intact. Your floor is 8.
Mm.
It's
Okay.
8. Like things went bad and you won 8 games.
It's going to be a very interesting case study, I think, for Auburn to see where, if they can retain at least most of the roster, where the expectations for year one will be. You open with Baylor in Atlanta. They won that game 38-24. There's no world where the expectation is you don't beat the shit out of those guys again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, as somebody who strongly, I had no beef with Baylor until Auburn played them. Now I got all the beef with Baylor. I want all the smoke with Baylor and their fans and anybody who covers Baylor. F Baylor. Auburn should win that game. This should run them off the field. The talent gap between Auburn and Baylor is massive. And if it is that way again this year, my expectation is that they beat them by 21 the next time. So you should win that game. But the rest of the schedule, man, again, you pick up Florida, you pick up Tennessee, you got to play the Mississippi schools, and you get LSU. Maybe they're reeling a little bit after firing Brian Kelly. So we'll see what kind of team they are next year. But you got Alabama and Georgia on the road. I wonder what the mood is going to be from the money people, from John Cohen, about what this first-year coach should, because he's going to spend a lot of money trying to make sure this isn't a rebuild for whoever coaches this team next year.
If you keep this talent intact, I think your floor is 8 wins. I think your floor is 8 wins because I don't expect LSU to be as formidable as we've known them to be by the time we face off against them. I think you're still better than Mississippi State. Ole Miss will be it will be a fight, but you have some winnable. You have some games that you can get to 8 if you get the right guy. For the record, the guys that we've discussed, Mike, they're not bad. They're not that. In my opinion, they wouldn't be bad hires. But but there's a sense of urgency, Mike, in where you have to get this right. Then that means that you're going to have to be very meticulous about who you bring in. It's not an exact science. We've hired worse coaches who've won championships, or won a championship. So it's not an exact science, but you have to get this right. Well, you have to get this right.
We're going to run through some comments here before we get out of here. I appreciate your thoughts, Caesar. Like I said, we didn't get to talk to you on Wednesday, so it's nice to be able to get you in on a Friday night to talk a little Auburn football here on the War Report, a midweek report special. Over 1,700 of you in here with us live tonight between Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and everywhere else we go live. So we appreciate you guys for joining up. If you're on Twitter, do us a favor. Go on over to YouTube and subscribe to the channel. YouTube has a new feature called hyping a video. So hit that hype button and make sure you boost us in the algorithm. We appreciate the support. We do this for a living. So when you guys hit like and subscribe, it helps us out a ton. And when you hit hype, it helps us out a ton. And when you comment after the video, let us know what you think about each of the guys that Auburn interviewed this week. Do you want them? Do you not want them? We want to hear from you. Smash that. Let's make sure we get 500 plus comments here after the video. Got a super chat here from Harold Greer says, feel like I didn't give Harsin a chance and was giving Hugh Freeze too much, mostly due to recruiting. Just mind-blowing how Hugh Freeze screwed this up. Look, man, the focus on recruiting was right. It was right. They had the right idea. But some procedural things, I think, kept them from greatness. Rick Cazenave says 9 wins where 2025 could have been with a mid offense. John Cohen famously said, if we had even an average offense, I wouldn't be standing in front of you. And these are all in response to the questions about first-year expectations for Auburn's next coach. 9-win floor easily. Cedric Carter says 10 wins is the expectation, Caesar. JJ Outdoor says 10-2. Anthony Grant says 7 wins. James Head says could win 10 games. Messin Rue 88 says 8-4, 9-3, mainly QB question marks. DJ Sledge says, guys, a new head coach is not going 10-2 in his first year off the rip. That change is going to be difficult. 8-4 would be awesome. Really difficult schedule, I think. Bourbon Tiger in Auburn says, yes, 10-win expectation, even with the schedule, but the schedule is nasty. DJ Sledge says 7-5 is your floor, right? Snowy Tricks says no less than 9 wins. Jesus and a Therapist says anything 7 wins or over is a success right now. It certainly feels like it after all these losing seasons. James Head says Franklin can win 9 wins at least. James Wesley says 9-3. Chad Ratch says I'd say 9 wins is good. And Auburn Express says floor 8-4, ceiling 12-0. Whoo, man! Look, this is going to be a wild offseason. This is going to be one of the wildest off seasons I think in Auburn sports history. Auburn will hire coach. John Cohen told me during our interview, ideally Auburn would like to name a hire 24 hours after the Iron Bowl, which tells me that they have a really good idea of who they want. And if they can make that happen, then you won't have to wait long after the Iron Bowl to hear who the next coach of Auburn football is. I think if they end up naming a guy by Sunday, that's a really, really good sign for Auburn and the potential to keep this roster together, because it tells me that probably everybody who needed to buy in did buy in.
Okay.
The sooner the better.
If you're sticking to that deadline, that to me that narrows the field of possible coaches.
Right, because that guy is not still coaching, right? Yeah, fair enough.
It limits the field, right?
It does limit the field. So
if
he's currently
available. If John Summerall is your guy, hope he doesn't sneak into the college football playoff.
Are they a 3-loss team already?
The 2-loss team.
2-loss team? Okay. Yes, sir.
Hope they don't sneak in. Dillingham has 3 losses. I don't think he's getting to the CFP. So that's one guy, Franklin.
I don't know. Is it possible that they announce, like, if you're in contention, they could announce and say, hey, but he's going to coach out the season?
No, you don't want that distraction for that team.
We've seen it. There's precedent for this.
You've seen it for a coordinator. You haven't seen it for a head coach.
Okay.
Yeah. You've seen it for coordinators. Coordinators, they announce, but he's not the head man.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Caesar, we're going to go on and get out of here. We appreciate everybody for joining us on this Friday night special. Auburn is in the middle of a coaching search. It's the bye week. We don't have a post game. We don't have any content scheduled for tomorrow. So we decided to go live to talk about the interviews that happened this week. If you missed the start of the show, James Franklin reportedly interviewed this week, as well as Kenny Dillingham. And Eli Drinkwitz was a name of interest here for Auburn that Auburn spoke with his representation about some things surrounding the job. So a lot of wins there between those guys and recent accomplishments. Eli, I think Missouri's a 3-loss team already, so they, a little bit of a disappointing season for them, Caesar. But Franklin had his team in the playoffs last year. Dillingham had his team in the playoffs last year. With a 12-team playoff, there's no reason that Auburn should not be one of those teams. Can they hire the guy that can get them a chance at a college football playoff appearance and eventually a national title? That is to be seen. John Cohen is the guy who will make the decision. We hope to touch base with him again before or after he does to introduce Auburn's new coach. This is interesting time on the plains. Do us a favor, guys, before we get out of here. We want to hear from you again. Smash that like button and hit like and subscribe on the channel. We appreciate you guys for helping us out there. Share this video on social media at the War Report, hashtag Get Your Weight Up. Follow us on X and Instagram at the War Report, TW Report on TikTok. As always, this episode of the War Report is brought to you by our friends at the Rage Room. You can check them out at the addresses there in Opelika or Birmingham. Go get your rage out at the Rage Room. Sign up as a member. $5.99 a month will get you there. We had some signups. We had some memberships given away today. We appreciate you guys for helping support us again. And if you're watching on Twitter, it's a different experience. Come on over to YouTube and help us out. 17, almost 1,800 of you now in here with us. So come support us on YouTube. Help us get those numbers up, man. We're on the race to 16,000 subscribers on YouTube. We're just 200 away. So you can help us get there by coming over and subscribing to the channel. Check out our written work at thewarreport.com as well as our merch store. You can get your book merch or your War Report merch to wear to games there, but also check out all the great written stuff we're doing there. Logan Fowler, senior writer for thewarreport.com, doing great work with us. Myself, Ike Caesar, we drop things from time to time over there as well too. So you want to go check this out. Subscribe on podcast, all the podcast platforms. We are there, giving you guys lots of great audio only content. After the video, do us a favor, guys, smash that super thanks button. Your financial support helps keep the work that we're doing here going, and we appreciate every single one of you that continues to support everything that we're doing here. Guys, we're going to sign on off, but we'll be back at you Sunday with the weekend tailgate to talk more Auburn football. We're out of here. War Eagle.